Thunderheads were hitting to the south and to the north. You could see the big lightning bolts.
He was just watching the sun just keep fading away.
All I could think about was, hey, let's just get this show on the road, man. We got a 200-mile hike. Let's keep going.
No, it didn't go as planned.
Yeah, hell no, we had wrecks, man.
Everybody was thinking, man, it could be a liability. He could hurt himself even more.
This is gonna be a really long day. A really long day.
Done anything like this before?
I mean, I've ridden the hurricanes with them, and we've done some things like that.
15-foot swells after Hurricane Matthew. That was probably the last one we did.
We live right at the ocean, so we ride a lot. We're more used to the waves and current, but I don't think we're used to the length of time we're going to be on the skis, you know?
This is the first time we've went this far.
I met Matt Suttles 2.5 years ago. He told me him and some boys were going to drive some WaveRunners to the Bahamas.
Originally, we saw a couple of YouTube videos where people went to the Bahamas, and then me and my friend Jason came up with the idea to go all the way to Nassau for the Yamaha show.
I kind of left it for dead and thought maybe it'll go down, maybe it won't.
Thought he was half joking, like probably wouldn't happen. I didn't do much research on the subject.
2 years went by, and I remember just thinking, we'll never get out there, we won't do it.
Matt's a good friend of mine. He always plans pretty cool trips, and you know, last minute it's like, hey, it's a guy's trip, let's go.
And of course, I didn't want to turn down this opportunity.
We're to the Bahamas from Miami on skis, and I'm just thinking.
Everybody was like, hell yeah. You know, there was no second guesses or concerns or worried. Anytime it comes to a boys' trip, this is what we do.
Anytime you're crossing a large body of water like this, it's obviously a lot of hazards, especially on a single engine boat. We got brand new equipment, new Yamaha WaveRunners, so we don't expect to have any mechanical issues. We got a brand new Sportsman center console boat with a 250 Yamaha outboard on it.
We're taking Yamaha FX HOs, 180 horsepower, new design hull for this year.
They got the bigger engine, but for fuel consumption, this is why we chose this, because it's going to burn the least fuel. They're perfect for exactly what we're doing.
So our plan is to head over to Chubb Cay this morning. It's a 150-mile run, and we're going to get some fuel and clear customs there, and then on into Nassau. It's another 50-mile run from Chubb over to Nassau.
I could tell that they were all best friends, and they've all ridden together.
Hey, Damien, does that thing got a Hemi?
Yeah, it's got to have one to push my fat ass.
I wasn't sure if they knew how much physical strength it would take and the emotional strength.
Yeah, do you believe we're about to ride to the Bahamas?
We ain't even started this journey yet.
Well, I'm definitely concerned that everything goes well, but I think that we won't have any problems that we can't overcome today.
We got Vern at the helm. I mean, you saw the itinerary. You saw how well that thing was plotted out. Looks like we're going to take Cuba or something.
Dude, I'm super stoked. I'm ready to get on the water.
We expect it to be about a 7-hour trip in total. All right, guys, we're going to turn this corner. We'll be clearing the inlet. Open ocean dead ahead.
Yeah!
All right, I think we can do it, Captain.
Let's make it happen.
Woohoo!
Ready, guys, let's roll. Damien just found out that we're going to Bermuda Triangle, I believe as 5 minutes ago.
What do you mean I'm going to Bermuda Triangle?
We all think about how things are going to go, and we're thinking about this nice serene ride across the Caribbean Sea towards the Bahamas. It's going to be amazing, right?
Hey, would you say we're about a third of the way there yet, or what?
You think running 200 miles on a ski that does 50, 60 miles an hour is a piece of cake. You know, we'd be there in 4 or 5 hours. Let me tell you, it doesn't work like that.
And there's a difference between riding skis recreational and then doing something like this we did.
You gotta leave Florida early. That's the most important thing I kept hearing. Don't cross with the north wind and leave early.
How we doing?
We ain't even started the journey, Vernon. We got to get going, bud.
Well, I'll tell you what, as soon as we left shore and started heading about 120 degrees southeast out of Fort Lauderdale, within a few miles, we had seaweed sucked up in the intakes.
Damien had to go swimming with the sharks and get it cleaned out.
I ain't going to that Bermuda Triangle.
I think some of the guys, I may not tell you this, but I'm sure they had an oh moment when they're thinking, what am I getting myself into? I'm gonna do 200 miles of this.
At the beginning, it was a little rough. In the middle, I was like, yeah, we can do this. By the end, I was like, man, I don't know if we're gonna make it, guys.
You know, these skis, their hulls are not designed for crossing open ocean type waters with big fetches and wave heights. You know, they're intended for lakes and river running. Until you actually get out on the water and you see those waves coming at you on a ski for 200 miles continuously, non-stop, you don't realize what you're in for.
Typically where I'm from, every time a hurricane comes around, we like to go out there and ride waves and jump waves.
We've been out in 12 and 13 during hurricanes, jumping waves just for the hell of it, and they were so spread out and smooth, it's easy, right?
First part of the trip, I think we were tracking at about 27 for the first couple hours. And we had to slow down a little bit, you know, as we started coming through the Gulf Stream. Wind changed directions a little bit.
Waves are busting over the bow and they're hitting the guys in the face.
I don't even want to know what like an 8 to 10 is in the Gulf.
I mean, we've been practicing riding 60, 70 miles out in the ocean. The biggest problem with this, even though there were 2-foot waves, was the endurance part. You know, riding up and down, banging your body for literally 12 hours.
Some spots you didn't have any wave, and then most spots there were waves, and of course they come out of nowhere. You know, so you're in the middle of the ocean, it's unpredictable.
You know, it's a lot more difficult to maintain your speed, which is very important, and your fuel efficiency. We want to try to run about 27 knots, 30 miles an hour, and that gives us our best fuel consumption. The water gets rough, we got to slow down in the low to mid-20s sometimes, and it burns up a little bit more fuel as well. We've gone 27 miles since we last refueled.
You know, one thing that we didn't consider was the waves, moving the boat around and fueling the skis. The fuel cap is actually the very front left of the ski.
Oh, Matt.
It was a puzzle we had to put together out there for sure. If you was doing it by yourself, that feeling, it wouldn't have worked out.
The boat is only intended to have 110 gallons of fuel. We was carrying double that to support the skis, all the camera equipment, all the safety equipment, the life raft, all the gear. I mean, we were sitting real low in the waterline when we left Fort Lauderdale.
It was a choice that we had to make, you know, to make this journey.
I didn't start getting nervous until about probably halfway through. I was like, man, what did I sign up for? Because it was just a sun bearing on you, and it was enduring.
We wasn't prepared.
I remember ticking it down and thinking, okay, we're probably 10% done. That really sucks.
If I could do this trip again, and I definitely would love to, we would do a couple things different. I think we all lack energy. Halfway before we get to Chub K, we're all dying, you know, like we're hungry. And everybody's looking around, it's like, hey, what do you have to eat? Or what do you have to eat? And we had a Snickers bar and a protein bar. It was just us in the ocean, you know, like we didn't even have a destination because all you could see was the horizon.
What would we do?
Everybody had their own little part in the fatigue. Everybody's complaining a little bit about something.
We had to make up some time. We had to get to Chub K. So cameras were down and we were just, cruising. And one of the guys had put his hand up and said, man, I'm winded. And I could tell he was winded because the conditions, maybe it was only 2 feet, but it was super rough to be on a ski out there.
I was concerned at that point. We're only 25 miles on the trip and one of the riders already showing fatigue. We got a long way to go, so that definitely raised my stress level.
It's a little disappointing, I'm gonna be honest with you. It was rough. It was definitely a lot harder than I expected it was gonna be.
He was a little sore, so one of the film guys had to get out there and jump on their ski. They manned up and just took over.
It's funny because I was thinking to myself, man, I'm glad I'm not out of one of those, but they needed somebody to jump in and, I felt like I can do it. And
man, he's an old badass hippie, so he just says, man, I'll do it. And he only had ridden skis 3 or 4 times in his life.
4th time in 20 years. I'm a boater, I wakeboard, I surf, I snowboard, I ride dirt bikes, but I really never ridden a wave runner. But I was like, how hard could it be? So I jumped on and said, hey, yeah, let's give this guy a break. We don't want anyone to get hurt. That's the biggest thing. So if I did 20 miles and gave him a rest, I thought that would be pretty cool.
The trip was going great, you know, like we were probably 40 miles outside of Bimini, so I guess maybe 90, close to 100 miles. At that time, we were all shifting of who was leading, who was in second, changing positions, etc. And so it was a lot going on and a lot of wake.
I was in the back and I was getting a lot of backwash and wake from everybody, so I was like, okay, you know what? It's time for me to get up front. So I hit the gas a little bit and I hit 2 or 3 wakes converging and came undone.
Yeah, the conditions got a little extreme there in that real shallow area. One of the guys want to take a swim and cool off. But
by that time that we realized that he was off the ski, I believe he lost his radio, so he couldn't inform us.
Let me tell you what a scary feeling that is, of 100 miles outside in the ocean to come undone.
If it wasn't for Damien looking back, spotting like he was supposed to, that could have been a disaster. We could have been a man short and we circling circles trying to find him.
So I pop my head up from under the water and I see nothing. Nobody's around.
We lost sight of him, so we turned around to go see him, and then the boat started pulling away from us and we lost sight of the boat.
So I swam as fast as I could back to that ski, got on the ski, was catching my breath, and thank God in the distance I saw another wave runner coming my way.
By the time we got to him, the boat was almost out of sight, so we kind of had to work in a relay so we could keep eyes on each other. We were scared that, you know, hey, they lose sight, it might be hours trying to find each other.
so he's good. He's back on the boat, switching riders. You know, the rider that had to tap out, I mentioned, I said, once you get back on the ski and give Chris a break, we got him back on the ski within just 2 or 3 minutes. His mind wasn't straight.
You know, I'd just taken a break and gotten off the ski for probably 45 minutes or an hour. Kind of got relaxed. You get in that boat after being on that ski for 2 or 3 hours, you get a little comfy.
I was just looking back and I noticed that he was coming in hot from the right.
Any damage?
Yeah, 1 pound black damage.
Running at the time probably 28 to 30 miles an hour, and I was just looking back and I noticed that he was coming in hot from the right.
A wave come over the bow of the boat and started pushing it down in the water, and the guy kind of panicked a little bit. He's not the most experienced rider that we have, so he just panicked and he let off the throttle.
I don't know, I froze up. I was probably thinking Brandon's about to scout me and turn me into a vegetable.
I'll tell you, the brakes on that FX, man, they really do work. You know, you only need a few feet to stop that thing if you really need to. I'm thinking that he was maybe 10 to 12 foot in front of me, and I locked down on the brake and almost cleared him.
I was directly behind when the wreck happened, and the first thing I thought was the rider broke his leg.
Matt sped up beside us and told us what happened. He says, Jason's hurt. He got hit by a ski. And I'm like, oh my God. I was thinking medevac. I think about a sat phone. We got to get the Coast Guard out here or the Bahamian police to help us. You know, I was expecting a medical evacuation at that point.
And so like I immediately slammed on the brake and tried to steer out. And luckily at the last second, I cleared the back of the ski and caught the side.
The gunnel of the ski was cracked. His arm was hit by the ski.
Man, it could have been a lot worse. We could have sunk a ski out there in the Atlantic.
I'm definitely glad he didn't freeze up the way I did, because I'd be on one of those baskets getting pulled up in a chopper probably.
Okay, we can bounce back from this, you know. Let's just put a Band-Aid on the bullet wound. Let's just get it going. There's nothing we can do out here.
Jason was able actually to continue at that point. His elbow was sore, the ski was damaged, but it wasn't to a point where he had to tap out again.
Game on, start your engine.
To this point, we was only halfway through it. You know, here it is 1 o'clock and we've only gone half the distance we needed to do, and I expected already to be in Chubb by that time.
But it's getting later in the afternoon, so everybody knows that the storms typically build up in the afternoon here, so hopefully we'll be spared by those.
We got within 40 miles of Chubb. The thunderheads were hitting to the south and to the north. You can see the big lightning bolts hitting. We packed up all the gear, we got the equipment safe, and we put everything, stowed everything that we could. We prepared for a downpour and some rough conditions. I counted every single mile.
We kept riding, we made it into Chubb K. I want to say that was about an hour and a half later.
Welcome to Mary Island, Chubb K. Hallelujah. Yeah, when we rode into Chubb, it was great, man. We went through that pocket. It was beautiful. Chubb's great, man. Everybody on the island was awesome.
The first thing going through my mind is how to expedite this process. I'm thinking about how we can do things the fastest and the quickest and the most efficient method possible.
We gotta fuel up quick. We gotta leave by 6:15 in order to make it to Nassau, otherwise it's gonna be dark.
We're very thankful that the film crew, they're used to this kind of stuff, working long hours, and you know, they came prepared unlike us, and you know, they had a whole case of power bars. So director Chris made sure, hey guys, fuel up, we got 50 more miles, let's go.
It looks like there's a thunderstorm, it's gonna miss us, still some choppy waves, but other than that, I think we're gonna make it.
Yeah, so we get the refueling process done at Chubb, and we clear customs and immigration, and the sun is just a few inches off the horizon.
You know, when we leave Chubb K at night, you only got about 30 minutes of daylight and 39 miles ahead of you, and you have to ride fast. So the hardest decision I had to make was I had to take my best friend off the ski.
Everybody was thinking, man, it could be a liability. He could hurt himself even more if we're running 45, 50 miles an hour.
And unfortunately, I didn't think he'd be able to make the trip at the speed we needed to be at, so I had to take him off the ski. You know, and it's hard to do something like that when it's your best friend.
Personal pride aside, it was a good decision. After I had the accident, I was not riding right, and I didn't need to be out there in the dark with my elbows swollen up.
So I was pretty stoked to jump back on the ski again. The wind was calming down, and so it would look like the water was a little smoother.
Leaving Chubb K, I believe it was around 7:20 to 7:40, somewhere around in there. We realized, hey, you know, we got 38, 40 miles left, we need to get going.
Everybody had a full tank. We only had 50 miles to run. Trimmed the motor all the way up so we was barely in the water. Bring the trim tabs up, put her on the pins.
We was just watching the sun just keep fading away, fading away.
There we were. It was dark. You know, the sun went down quick.
And we were doing 45 miles an hour in the open water. It was tough. Thank God for that sportsman boat with the LED lights. I just looked at it like a moth going to a flame.
I mean, it wasn't the safest thing, but it's one of those things you had to get it done. There was no turning around or holding on or I'm scared.
Man, yeah, I was like, what have I got myself into?
Probably the last 10 miles was approaching Nassau here. I couldn't open my fingers. They were just clenched up tight.
Your body started fatiguing out. Your mind started fatiguing. Everybody's getting fatigued.
I was probably 5 minutes away from tapping out, but I kept pressing on. And
Once you leave, it's really the point of no return. You got to get there or not.
It was pretty scary running 45, sometimes 50 at night, not knowing if there was going to be a pole or buoy or anything.
I just couldn't believe that we were able to ride the skis through the dark with no lights and just basically go off the chase boat.
The guys on the boat, they kept a watch on us, but all they could see is a little light from the screen.
Luckily, man, it was a great night. We had a good moon. You know, it wasn't quite full, it was a few days out, but having that light definitely helped.
when we saw the lights of Nassau, I was like, oh man, we're almost there. We can do this.
And talking about the relief, man, that was a sight to see.
Oh yes, there is a light at the end of this tunnel, and then we just started heading straight towards it.
I wanted to just go full speed ahead, but unfortunately I had to be smart and follow the boat in.
It felt like forever to get to Nassau. But when we finally did and Captain Vern backed off the speed a little bit, we cruised the rest of the way in. Super stoked to get to the Bahamas.
I pledge allegiance. If that bothers you, well, that's too bad.
I was so happy. I was so happy. I just didn't even care about the wreck. I didn't care about not getting to finish. I was just happy I was here, man.
So when we finally touched ground, I was like, man, we made it.
It was good. It was a good feeling, man. It's a good feeling.
The fact that all the hard work, all the planning finally paid off.
It was one of the best experiences of my life, and I'm still emotional thinking about it because it was difficult. It's a very difficult trip to come here on a ski in a small boat like this across 200 miles of sea and waters you've never been in your life. You know, once you made that crossing and all that emotion unleashed, it was just kind of just come over you. After all we went through yesterday, I mean, today is a totally different vibe, a totally different feel. For the most part, everybody's just chilling and relaxing and getting their minds back the way they usually are, just, you know, having a good time as a group and, you know, being friends.
We are on Green Key. I think the natives call it Turtle Island. It's awesome, man. It's definitely a paradise.
It's kind of nice being in the water today, actually being able to stretch out because everybody's pretty bound up from the ordeal yesterday. You know, we're all getting a little bit older, and putting things together like this are harder and harder to do as people get older and have families and get married, and so it's definitely really important to do it now.
Well, it's great, man. Having some of your closest friends and my son here, it just means everything to me.
It means a lot, man. I've definitely taken this to heart. It puts this friendship on a different level now, for sure.
We all work hard, we all play harder, but bottom line is we're a good, tight group of friends, and you know, this ain't gonna be our last trip.
This particular island means to us lifetime memories. You know, all of us can look back 20 years from now, show our kids, our grandkids, of how a group of friends got together and did 200 miles to the Bahamas.